watching the Entrepreneurial SME, and if you've just joined us, we're looking at how the SME sector has adapted to the forever changing economic landscape and evaluating the longevity and sustainability for the near future. My guests are Managing Executive for Finance at Telkom Business, Hasnain Motlekar, and founder of Virtue Business Solutions, Wendy Silinyana, an award-winning business woman. Wendy, I host a whole lot of amazing SMEs here. Week in and week out, we see their businesses, they're doing amazing stuff. So I'm the first to say we do actually profile them doing amazing things. But I just want us to focus on what are the things that are happening that we don't see every day. Amazing, great things where there's maybe some funding, some incubation that's working, where there are programs that are happening that we're not seeing but are making great strides.
Thanks, Rams. I happen to be part of an organization or consulting for an organization that is providing guarantees to microfinance institutions. And this is a new conversation on the ground to say, access to finance for small businesses has been a challenge for many years. And now providing a guarantee to say, in the event, when you go to financial institutions, you find that there are times where you are asked for collateral, some kind of security. And if you don't have that, you're coming from a historically disadvantaged background, you don't have those, facilities. Now, this organization then provides, comes in as a form of security for financing for women-owned businesses. So for me, that is like a win in the access to opportunities and access to finance for women, in particular in the Southern Africa region. And there's, recently I read about another one that another finance institution is setting up to make sure that there's access to finance and just lowering the red tape, for women to access finance and for those emerging entrepreneurs to be able to access finance. Because for me, it's about two things. If you've got the opportunity, you need finance, or so you can scale the business.
Hasnain, you as Telkom Business, firstly, you partners of us on this show, and last month we, Arena Holdings and you guys, we hosted a conference here in this building, really focusing on issues of SMEs. And I want to give accolades to Telkom Business. I mean, in that room were SMEs that were funded and helped by you guys to do amazing stuff, including a business that started its own cell phone company. Amazing stuff. So my question is how is it that when there are problems, I don't have to leave my home to know. But when there are success stories, I have to come to a conference in Parktown to get to know about that.
Very well put, Rams. Yeah, we tend to be bad news mongers. We're actually very good at selling bad news. But as South Africans, we don't sell the good news. And there are good news elements in across the country. I mean, when I spend time with our sales guys visiting not only our dealers but customers, you're finding pockets of trade that you don't think you weren't even aware existed. We're trying to be a bit more regional and get out of the Centurion offices and visit the local businesses to understand what they're trading with and how they're trading and how do we support them, not only from selling to them, but also from a future maker perspective to actually see other parts of the economy that we can foster and grow. Granted, we focus sort of on ICT elements of it, but there are good stories, small, and maybe that's another one that's a good takeaway point. We don't sell the good news stories that we do come across, because I mean, one of the statements I always hear: if you're not a Telkom customer, you're using somebody who is a Telkom's customer. So somewhere you're using Telkom, and we need to just be a bit better. And we do these things. In fact, we have one next week called Blaze, where we're engaging with the SMB segment to see actually how do we support them, how do we encourage them, how do we grow them, and it becomes a win-win situation, not just for Telkom. We're coming with this big, massive company that actually looks down, that we actually engage as equal partners going forward. And we see, how do we help you grow your trade? Is there something we can assist with? I mean, either through our vendor supply program or through our free maker program. And Telkom is actually quite good, and we tend to keep these things a secret. You're 100% correct. I'll have a chat to our PR people.
So just a follow-up question to that is, when I reflect on what Wendy said, is access to finance still the biggest stumbling block to a lot of SMEs? Or could it be that what really is a stumbling block is access to markets more than finance?
Access to markets and a viable business model. There are plenty of funders out there globally as well. There's always funders looking, but how do you, it's not just access to markets, access to funders. How do you actually make the two, link the two together, and finding ways to actually creating these tentacles across the different markets, and not just look at it myopically within the South African environment, where our funders tend to be a bit more conservative, given that the funding pool is so much smaller. But once you start opening up these markets from a larger, broader funding pool, the risk profiles of your funders tend to change, and they tend to look at you with more, I won't say open arms. They're more willing to have conversations in terms of funding certain high-risk businesses. But again, the fundamental, the core of it is, one, access to market, and then also the business must be viable. It cannot be that you're funding somebody's dream, so to speak. It must have a viable, and it must have legs beyond just currently within your own head.
Wendy, the minister spoke a lot about municipalities. I always say that it's one sector that is always ignored, which has budget to spend on SMEs, but also is a market itself, can buy a lot of services and goods from SMEs. But the flip side is also important. Are SMEs aware of the fact that they can get money from municipalities and can sell goods and services to municipalities? Those that are not corrupt, that is, a few that are not corrupt.
That's a difficult one to say, those that are not corrupt. I think it's about access to information, again, as my fellow panelist was saying, that the information is out there, there's plenty of funders, there's plenty of opportunities. And the question is, do the small businesses know about these opportunities within municipalities? And where I come from, there would be those local economic development initiatives where you invite small businesses, you share about the opportunities that are out there within municipalities, and also the opportunities that, in terms of accessing funding and grants in some instances through local economic development. Yeah. So it's about accessing this information and knowing your municipality and getting into your municipality and understanding how they function. And unfortunately, you get there and it's another story.
Okay, let's talk corporates. It's one thing to talk about government and what they're supposed to do and what they're not doing, but there's also a role to be played by corporates. And over the years, corporates will tell you they've done enterprise and supply development. They also use corporate social investment or corporation, whatever they call it, responsibility to support SMEs. Are those still great opportunities for SMEs, those two tools, ESD and CSI?
Look, at different stages of the business growth, I would say they are good because for those who are starting, the incubation programs, the ESD programs help them to formalize, and even for the township business, township economy, township businesses, it helps them to formalize and be able to do business, in a formalized manner. But at some stage, you need to get, listen to your small businesses. What is your need? Because you see a lot of these programs. Yes, it's all well and good, and there's a good meaning around them. But you get to realize that, you know, you are asking for access to finance and you are put into an ESD program, which is not really what you want. So it's, I was laughing the other day coming across a post by a fellow entrepreneur saying, you know, you meet a small business, no one says, here's 100 million, go and fail.
Yeah.
But everyone is saying, come and join my program, come and join my ESD program. And really what you need is you know, that one person that will believe in your vision and invest into your vision. And of course, as my fellow panelist has said, that it has to be a business that is viable to invest in.
But Hasnain, I argue that sometimes we will never know that the business is viable. Sometimes you gotta have to have faith and throw that, maybe not 100 million, but 10 million rand into them and then back them up with systems and processes and mentorship and coaching, you know, and help them with access in the markets. But sometimes it does not show on paper what this dream of mine is until you help me with that 10 million and the other things that I mentioned.
Faith is one thing, but you got to show a bit more than faith. You got to be able to actually sell the story to whoever you're looking to fund it. And these programs allow you, through the incubation initiatives, to actually allow you to grow with a little bit of faith and then growing seed IP, if I can put it that way. There's got to be some intellectual property that goes with it more than just faith. It cannot just be faith alone. Nobody's going to give you 5 million, 10 million, 50 million on faith alone. I put it to you, sir. It's got to be a bit more faith. It's got to be based, and it's got to be in reality, and it's got to be viable. It's got to exist beyond the head of the entrepreneur. And sometimes you fail before you actually find the right idea that's actually viable. So, I mean, very few entrepreneurs hit success on the first try.
Well, I'm going to bring it closer to home to you, Hasnain. Yeah, yes, over the years, Telkom Business has done a lot of work in supporting fintech companies, right? I don't want to believe that all of those had a perfect business plan. I don't want to believe that all of those had the greatest jockey riding the horse. But you, as Telkom Business, were committed to helping these businesses. You went in, yes. You dove in there, you checked some more, you reconfigured things and said, this could work, drop this part, do that part. I'm talking about that kind of work where it's not just, well, I like your business plan or I don't like it, goodbye, right?
And we have this the saying within the business: if you're going to try something and you put a business case down, and if you're going to fail fast. Move on and fail fast. Yeah. And you're 100% correct. Not every business case sees the light or does see the light of day and lives to be a glorious success. So if you're going to attempt something and you fail fast and tweak and move on. I mean, it's never. Especially in big corporates, there's a constant evolutionary process around it. I mean, unfortunately, as corporates, you have the balance sheets to sustain, fail, and move on. Most entrepreneurs are very difficult. And that's what the incubation enterprise supplier development programs of the various corporates allow you to do. It creates a safety net for you to fail, but not fail where your personal balance sheet is at stake, where your family suffers as the result of the failure of your entrepreneurial endeavors. So it's very much about trying to fail fast and move on, but create this continuous pipeline that you're not penalized for the rest of your life. That failure is not seen as the end of your entrepreneurial journey. And that's what we've been trying to do over the years. We'll try something, okay, it didn't work, we'll try something else, we'll come back and even in our fintech environment, we've had lots of stumblings before we settled on something.
Yeah.
And you got to, because it's not like your competitor is going to leave the market alone for you to do what you want. You got they're going to come and innovate maybe faster and better than you. You're going to have to re-innovate again. And those kind of initiatives allow you to fail fast, make a decision. Don't hang on emotionally to something. A business is just that. It's a business. It's not your family. You keep your emotions for the family.
When we look at the successes of Telkom Business in the fintech space and SME space, right? Mm-hmm. Amazing. But the truth is that there are other ESD programs and incubation programs that have become malicious compliance, where we actually don't see progress, but people seem to do that and put it in the annual report to say, well, we did our part, right?
Look, for me, progress means, small businesses being part of the supply chain of corporates.
Yeah.
So if that hasn't been realized, you are still, overtraining. You go anywhere and speak to a small business or an entrepreneur. They are tired of training after training after training and not getting to the opportunity. So for me, progress means becoming part of the supply chain and getting the opportunity within that organization that is running that program. And just to add on to what my fellow panelist was saying is, when it comes to failing, for small businesses, there's a high rate of small businesses failing. We tell our kids at Mini-Boss Business School, if you haven't failed 1,000 times, you still haven't failed. Yeah. You have to, because this is the nature of the beast. You will fail. There is no way that you will start a business and succeed the first time. You will fail. You will have many failures. If you haven't failed 1,000 times, that's a minimum. So,
and that's a minimum.
That's a minimum.
I was about to say I have failed 1,001 times. Time to quit, or should I then hold on?
That's a minimum. If you haven't failed 1,000 times, you still haven't failed.
Okay.
At least.
All right. So let's talk about something different. Let's talk about critical skills that are so in demand as we speak today in the market, especially for SMEs that that need to get in and make a difference. What are the things that they need to know now that were not necessary 20 years or didn't even exist 20 years ago? What are those skills out there that they need to equip themselves with?
Look, we live in a technology, in a technological world currently. So digital skills is a must. It's very important, and it's a very, I'd say it's a very, it's looking bleak when you're looking at township economy versus your urban and more developed small businesses. You see the digital divide between your township businesses or your entrepreneur who's in the township who's still not, doesn't have access to all the technology or doesn't have access to data, doesn't have access to connectivity or anything. And you go worse into the rural areas. I had an incident where I was on an interview on radio, and I accidentally shared my number on, live. And after that, so many women coming from rural areas were calling and saying, Sisi, we would like to get assistance in this way and then that way. And to reach those women to say, okay, let's have a virtual meeting, that's another story. To have like a simple meeting, how do we meet? Okay, let's have a WhatsApp call. We don't have data. So those are some of the real challenges in terms of, a digital divide within, within small businesses in townships and rural areas, and how we need to close that digital divide.
What's your number again? No. Hasnain, you have answered a lot of the digital divide issues as Telkom Business. I mean, I have spoken to a lot of your colleagues, and the things that you're doing are completely amazing. What I do question is sometimes, because I don't want to defend my tribe, right? I really feel that sometimes the entrepreneurs are not taking enough effort. I don't think they're reaching out more to find out what is missing there. And sometimes when opportunities are thrown at them, they actually miss them.
That's true, because if I can just add on to the previous point, so if you're unable to digitally market your place, your business, so most big corporates have digital marketing teams, they have agencies, they have guys on commitments, and they have the one-man band doesn't necessarily have. But if I can use one anecdote, so there was a lady that was selling Vetkoek on the side of the road in, I think it was Lanesburg. She didn't digitally market her business, but somebody came past, drove on down from Joburg along there, and one saw this, put this TikTok video out there. It went viral. This lady's Vetkoek went viral. There's another guy that sells second-hand clothing here in Cape Town CBD. Again, he didn't do it himself for his own business. Somebody did it for me. That TikTok video also went viral. So there's ways to exploit it without necessarily having all the resources available to you. Sometimes your customer does it for you if you provide the customer experience that fulfills them in terms of the fulfillment of the service. So for me, I think a critical skill, digital marketing. But if you don't know it, your customer might know it. If you provide the service to the customer identity. And both these instances, it's not that these entrepreneurs did it for themselves. Somebody did it for them, and those videos went viral.
But I like that point that somebody did it for them. Do I always have to do it myself? Do I have to be this tech-savvy guy?
Yes.
You know, there's a gentleman I interviewed years ago when I was on radio, and they were trying to put together young people with matric who are tech-savvy to use them to help township businesses to do marketing, internet marketing. I mean, could a service like that be better than asking my local plumber who's 68 years old and uses a Nokia 310?
You still remember those?
I'm old. Could it be a service offered by other people and not necessarily asking the entrepreneur to do the work themselves, Wendy?
Mm-hmm. And I think you're raising a very valid point of taking young people. We've got, so many graduates who are unemployed, who could formalize themselves and offer those services to a township entrepreneurs. And if there's a corporate that would like to support that initiative, it's possible.
Yeah.
And there's many ways to kill the cat.
Than drowning it in cream. So. Somebody once said, and I tend to believe them, that the next gold is food, and that Africa could be the biggest merchant of this gold called food. What are opportunities that SMEs should be looking at in the food security space, where literally you could turn a person from a hustler to a big business person?
Mm-hmm. Interesting that you asked that question. I was invited recently to speak on how to end end poverty during World Poverty Day. One of the things I realized that we are sitting at 60.62 below the poverty line in Africa. In South Africa. Yeah. And that means that 60% of those are Africans. Yeah. Meaning that we have land galore, but we are still, one of the most poor countries compared to other countries. And the question is, what are we doing with the land that we have? And we have young people who can, who are unemployed and who are waiting for a Z83, or who are waiting for a Z83, and this is an opportunity. If we have a crisis of, food security, it means in the next 5 years, you could be finding yourself, running a successful.
Who should be doing that? Who should be initiating those programs? I was listening. This young man was speaking on the radio, and he does aquaponics, right? I mean, he's a fish farmer, so to speak. Amazing thing that you can do from the back of your house, even your informal house. Why are we not doing things like that? What's missing? Who's supposed to push for these things?
There are some programs that are run by government in supporting agriculture. There are some programs which are run by also private organizations that are supporting agriculture. And I think we have a mindset as South Africans that everything must be done by somebody else and not us. So it's about taking initiative and say, okay, I am unemployed at this stage. What can I do to get myself into a space where before I can wait for somebody else to do something for me? So I think we need to change that mindset, that mind shift, and we need to shift that mindset and say we have to take initiative, and uhulumende or government must find you on the way.
When people are still battling to feed themselves, they probably have no time to shift the mindset. But I hear you.
But hang on. Don't you have land? How long does it take you to plant spinach?
I don't know.
You know, to plant spinach and feed yourself while you are waiting for somebody to help you.
True that. Hasnain, I spoke about food security. What else? What are other opportunities that are lying out there for entrepreneurs that could change the world for them and for all of us who then consume the goods or the services?
So, given that I come from Telkom and ICT is sort of our domain, the opportunities are available globally. Copy and paste. We have a group CSS, copy with pride, paste with dignity. We see these opportunities offshore. We cannot be the pioneers of all good ideas. There are other ideas offshore. Bring them onshore. Use them onshore, and that is where the digital divide and closing that digital divide is so critical. Well, it's not for us to come up with these ideas. It's for us to say, open up the world, go see what the rest of the world is doing, and that's what Telkom is about. It's about digital data abundance, where we don't treat data like a ounce of gold. You got to make it abundant for everybody available. That because once you see what everybody else is doing, it creates opportunity. Or you see opportunities that you, as this big corporate, may not necessarily see, but as an entrepreneur, you'll see somebody offshore that's doing something that you're not doing, or somebody on the African continent doing something that you're not doing. And it's about creating visibility, creating this massive workspace for you to go explore and find opportunities yourself. It's this us being this fatherly figures or parental figures constantly dishing out. Government has to dish out, corporates have to dish out. Sometimes I agree, we have to do for ourselves.
I'll tell you one company I know that has taken something offshore and brought it onshore. It's called the Mini-Boss Business School. It's a great example of that, right? That's what they're doing. They brought something right here at home. But
100%.
Another opportunity is something that we frown upon, right? And we are a very wasteful country. I actually went to a government summit on waste management. Mm-hmm. And I got to learn that waste management is a huge opportunity for business people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is. We need to really position ourselves. It's access to information. There's so many people who are sitting and saying, I don't have a job, I don't have a business, I don't have an opportunity, yet they are surrounded by waste. And that is where the opportunities are. So it's about really shifting the mindset. You know, that's where we're going to see change. When we begin to shift our mindset from what is government going to do for me and what is the other person or the next person going to do for me, and say, what can I do? How can I use my own mind to create an opportunity for myself?
Hasnain, finally, what is the one thing that we're doing very well, but should be doing even better in this country from an SME point of view? I'm sure there is something we're doing well, but could be doing better.
I think the earlier point about exposing to information. Information sets, the information's out there, making these linkages between the funders, marketplaces, and the entrepreneur. I don't think we'll ever reach perfection in that environment, but it's constant evolution and just making those linkages stronger, creating those highways to prosperity, so to speak. It's not going to be one super idea. I mean, I always go back to the richest man in Africa got to us of cement, rice, and sugar. Basic commodities. It wasn't complex IT digital commodities, but he saw somewhere else how they do it, and he brought it to Nigeria. It's just about seeing what's out there, bringing it back home, and establishing those linkages. Funders, marketplace, and the entrepreneur.
Wendy?
And viable business, and one more, viable business.
Viable businesses. We trust them before we see that. But Wendy, one last word from you. Is there hope for SMEs?
There's hope, definitely. There's hope for the country, for our economy. And if we come together to the table, and I was having this discussion before to say, we need to put our political differences and political egos aside and say to ourselves, we've got an economy to build, not for ourselves, but for the next generation, which is why at Mini-Boss Business School, we're making sure that we're building the next generation of business leaders who will be able to take on the economy and take it to the next level. However, if we are not intentional today, what will they find?
Wendy Silinyana and Hasnain Motlekar, thank you very much for your time. And thank you for watching the Entrepreneurial SME. From me, Rams Mabote, good night and God bless.
Telkom Business, behind South African businesses' drive to thrive.